Security matters. It's about what we spend on carbohydrates, on meats, on marine foods, our trends in sugar and junk foods. There's some good news there, there's also some bad news. And it is not the job of the Bureau of Stats, and people like me to come and tell you what should be done, although we have a go at it, But all we are trying to bring out for you is what the data is saying. And if the data is saying that good things are happening, ask yourself, why is it happening? If it's saying that things are not happening too well why isn't it happening too well, and where should you target it? And if things are going badly, it's also telling you whatever you're trying is not working. And you better think of some brand new, innovative ways to reverse the trends. So we're not here to give people solutions. We're here to actually present facts to people. It's up to us as a collective nation to try and find the solutions for us. And we don't ask any one person in this nation to solve all the problems for themselves. We had a lovely presentation from the guy from fisheries who gave us a big slide about why things were going wrong. And well, I'll tell you what, a lot of it, it's hard to point the finger at somebody else. There are three fingers pointing back at our own people. So maybe some of this is like this. Let me just zip through all of this. Freedom of hunger is a basic human right, importance of food security, impact on imports, nutrition, etc. Right, let me just get on to some of the broad indicators which is suggesting that we are in trouble maybe in the rural areas and in terms of food. Food expenditure as a percentage of total expenditure is a very good indication of whether people are improving their standards of living or not. As people's incomes rise, usually their expenditure on food rises, but as a percentage of expenditure it usually falls. So if you had looked at data, something like 20 years ago, we were spending about, in the rural areas, about 42% of incomes, or total expenditure was being spent on food. And in other areas, in urban areas, the expenditure on food as a proportion has kept declining, implying that the urban areas have been improving their standards of living, they're spending less on food, they've got more money to spend on non-food items. But in rural areas, what has happened since 2002 is that the proportion has absolutely gone up from 40.5 to 46.5. And if you compare it to 1991, we're even higher than 1991, which would suggest that those people who live in rural areas, you'll know this yourself anyway, you can go there. Those remember what conditions were like in the 1990s. Things are worse in the rural areas today than they were in 1990s, when the sugar industry was absolutely booming and the production was 400,000 tons. Everything was happening then. It's not happening in rural areas now. So the question is, why is it not happening? So that's an indirect indicator. This one here is differentiating between rural and urban areas. All these tables are there, in the book. So I suggest you go through and look at it in your own time. But there's only one group in this table where food expenditure as a percentage of total expenditure has gone down seriously. Even in urban areas, for the bottom 80%, it hasn't changed very much. Only the top 20% in urban areas have reduced their food expenditure as a percentage of total expenditure. We suggest that between these two household income and expenditure surveys, the only people who have done well out of whatever is going on is the urban top 20%. Not all the people in rural areas, not the bottom 80% even in urban areas. And one of the things you can see is that in urban, the bottom 20% in urban areas, bottom 20%, the poorest 20%, the guys, the people who father bars, wages councils are trying to help and all that, the food as a percentage of expenditure has gone up, which means the bottom 20% in urban areas, although urban poverty has declined, the most poor in urban areas, they have got worse.